and welcome everybody. This is Adam from Miller's Custom Guitars and the N+1 Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This show is all about hobbies, passions, obsessions, and we bring on amazing guests from all different hobbies, all different interests, pursuits, and we just ask them the same question, which is not just what you're into, but what is next on your journey of pursuing that passion. We've had on some amazing guests over the past. In the last episode, we brought in Darwin Snyder, who is a missionary who has such an amazing story from being rescued from a horrible situation in Ecuador, being adopted by a loving family, and now has gone full circle, and he is now serving in the same missionary organization that helped bring him out of that. We've had just incredible guests throughout the years, throughout the year. Yeah, it's been over a year since we've done this. We had on Steve from Raffo, who we talked about Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. I'm rereading the Stormlight Archive, and we just geeked out about that. We've had a number of guests, but in every episode, we talk to all of our guests and we say, what are you into? What are you passionate about? And not just that, we say, what is next? Because I'm a musician, right? I'm a guitar player. And every guitar player will tell you how many guitars is enough guitars? N+1, right? You always need one more guitar in the stand. You always need one more tool in the tool shed. You need one more painting on the wall. And that's what I talk to every guest about, which is not just what you're into, but what is next. And so that's what I talk to the guests about, and that's what I'm going to talk to my guest today about. Today's guest is one of my best friends, probably my best friend, which is Matt Groom, who was the best man in my wedding 18 and a half years ago. So today we're going to talk to Matt. Without further ado, let's get over to Matt. Hello and welcome everybody. I am so glad to be joined today by one of my oldest friends. And so yes, I am going to say oldest friends because today I'm joined by my dear friend Matt Groom, who was nice enough to join me on short notice, who packed up the kids in the car and made the drive up to Sonora for the small price of pizza. He came up here today, and I've known Matt we were talking, at least 20 years.
Yeah, at the very least, when we were in college together.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we were
in our 40s.
Shush! I made this joke in one of the early episodes with Courtney Pong that, it kind of tells our age that we have Facebook accounts that we actively use. That tells you how old we are. Matt is here. He is one of my good dear friends, and he was actually the best man in my wedding. Yep. So that it tells you. And we were actually our kids were out in the back. Matt is one of those friends. He's like a dude friend. He's just a bro, which is that we might not see each other or even text each other for like 3 or 4 years, and then just out of the blue we'll hit each other up, and then it's just like nothing's ever changed. It's just like he's just a solid dude. He's a great friend, and I love him. I love his family, Jennifer and his kids, and I'm so glad that he could come here today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we got a bromance going, and I'm so happy to be here. But what are we going to talk about today? N+1 Podcast is all about hobbies, passions, obsessions. Matt has the weirdest passion. Matt has always loved sports. Mm-hmm. But not just sports, because, heck, we all love football. Everyone loves basketball. Everyone loves baseball. Matt doesn't just love sports. Matt loves all of the sports. As long as I've known Matt's like, hey, did you catch, high water diving? Did you catch underwater basket weaving? Did you see
basket weaving?
Did you see? We've gone together to see, what was the game that we saw? It was like
we've gone to several
weird games.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I remember you you texted me one time saying, "Hey, I got free tickets to this hockey game. You want to go?"
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yes.
"Sure.
Yeah,
Why
but
not?"
there was one game that we saw. I think you dragged me onto it.
Oh, I know what that is, but to finish the story, it ended up not being hockey. It ended up being indoor lacrosse.
Indoor lacrosse.
Which
that was fun.
It was a blast. Too bad San Jose doesn't have the team anymore.
Oh, bummer. You know, like live sports is great. It's a lot of fun. You know, you got the concessions and the drama of the sport. It's a lot of fun to go to. I really do enjoy going to live sports. I don't really love watching a lot of different sports on TV anymore. And we actually cut the cable, like 5 years ago. So we don't watch. I don't even watch football anymore as much as I love football. One thing I've always just loved about Matt is he just knows all this stuff about like every sport. So I just wanted to bring you on as an excuse to get you up here and see your kids and have some pizza. I'm just happy to have you. But let's talk about sports, and we'll go through the questions and we can talk about whatever. But how did you get into sports, and especially like everyone likes football, but how'd you get into like all these weird, like little tiny sports that no one ever heard of?
Okay, before I have to answer that question, I have to go back to what I loved about sports to begin with. And it actually started with my neighbor growing up. And he had baseball cards, he had like Nintendo video games, and it's not necessarily I wanted to be like him, but to be honest, I was a little jealous that he had stuff that I didn't have. And one thing that he had was baseball cards. I was 7 at the time. He had all these baseball cards, and I wanted baseball cards. Mm-hmm. And so it started from that to watching baseball on TV. So I was 7 in 1989 when the A's played the Giants in the World Series.
Okay.
And, the Battle of the Bay, and of course for us in our 40s, if we watch baseball, back then we remember that's when the big earthquake happened in Game 3.
Earthquake. Yeah, so I wasn't into baseball then, but I do know the significance of that was the earthquake game, right?
So that got me on to sports in general. And then it was football when the Niners played the Broncos in the Super Bowl in 1990. Ultimately, that's what it was. The only time that I would watch a minor sport was the Olympics. Mm. So I was always interested in the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, the Olympics does a great job at marketing their sports to like the public, right? They weave it in, they make it more about the stories than the actual sports, which is a great way to market to the masses. And then they still have competition at the highest level, which is always compelling. You have literally the best athletes in the world competing at the highest level, and then they interweave these great compelling stories. And there's nothing not to like about that. And I mean, who doesn't like watching the Olympics? I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure, but I've always enjoyed watching the Olympics. And then of course, they cherry pick the most interesting ones.
Right, especially if it's on like a major network like NBC.
Right.
And, that's what it was back then. And, I didn't have cable growing up, so anything I wanted to watch was on regular TV. Mm-hmm. Anyway, as I got older, I got cable. And then every once in a while, ESPN would show a different sport. And it was just curiosity. Like, I'd flip through the channels, and like I saw lacrosse one day, and I was just, what is it?
Yeah.
And so I was watching just to kind of figure out what it was. Mm-hmm. If I got interested in it, then I would want to do some research to figure out more about it, figure out all that I could.
Yeah.
And
so, and this is like the mid-early 90s, right?
When I got into lacrosse, it was like the late 90s.
Okay. So by then we had internet. You could look things up on the internet. You could find things out.
Yes.
Okay.
It was... For me, it was rarely used, but, I had it.
So that's kind of how you would be exposed to some of these weird sports because, you were maybe watching SportsCenter and they would have the top 10 and they would pepper in with their basketball and their other sports. They would pepper in their highlights with other weird sports. And you would be like, what is that weird sport?
Yeah. And if I liked it enough, I just wanted to learn more about it.
Okay, so that's really interesting to hear how you branched out into those other sports. So, Matt, what are some misconceptions that some people have about sports?
I don't know about sports, but I will start with what some people have misconceptions about me.
Okay.
Which is like that's all I know is sports.
Oh, sure. Right.
And I have a master's degree in history, and
right.
I love 80s and 90s music trivia, stuff like that. So I'm more than just a one-trick pony.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I know that about you for sure. We actually were debating in there, should we do this about history? Should we do this about sport? You're a coach, which I think I want to mention and fold into this, that maybe we could talk about coaching and what you've learned about being a coach. And, you're a great parent, as I've witnessed tonight.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, you're definitely you're an onion. You're a layer. You have multiple layers of person. Mm-hmm. You're also stinky, just like an onion. Just kidding, guys. He smells great. So what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say another misconception just popped into my head, where some people have the misconception that the only sport that exists is football.
Right. Or whatever sport they're into.
Right. And they don't see that the competition of all the other sports and all the stories that the athletes had to go through to get to where they're at.
Yeah. Well, and this is one thing I always hated this as a football fan. Someone say, "Oh, if you condensed all the time they actually played down, it would only be 10 minutes or 12 minutes." And to me, that was so reductive, because there's so much chess in football, and there's so much other things that happened. It was like so insulting. Oh, there's only 10 minutes of action, and that discounts all the other things that happens. I feel like you could say something like that about just any sport, and it's getting rid of the the chess game of sports. When you think of baseball, where you position the outfielders affects so much. Or in basketball, I don't know stuff about basketball, guys. Where you do the thing with the people. I don't know stuff about basketball, but there's these things in any sport where you can affect the outcome with coaching, with preparation.
Right.
It's not. I mean, physical ability is so huge, but preparation, mental preparation.
Right. I mean, there's so much psychology that goes into
any sport.
Yeah. And Adam mentioned that earlier, that I am a coach as well. The sport that I coach is cross country, and one big misconception about that is two things, actually. One is that it's the same as track, and it is not. Track, you're just running around a circle over and over, whereas cross country, you're going out into courses, so like golf courses, parks, schools, wherever, and you're running a trail. You're not running laps around a circle. Sometimes you are, but there's also hills involved, and up and down and different surfaces, where track is just one surface over and over. Mm-hmm. The other misconception about cross country particularly is that it's just running, and there's just so much psychology involved in it. And I train my runners on the psychological stuff as much as the physical stuff.
So tell me about that. So in the psychology of cross country, give me an example of that.
Okay, so I coach a small team. Usually my biggest team would be 7. Mm-hmm. And that's if I have a big team. This year I had 4.
Okay, wow.
Which, by the way, is not a full team. You have to have 5 to have a full team. Okay. So my team competes as individuals. When I have them line up for a race that we have, we'll go up against schools that have 40, 50 on their teams. And if they see a team right next to them that has 40, 50 people, mm-hmm. they start to get intimidated. Mm-hmm. Naturally, because it's
40 people.
It's 40 people against...
It's a lot of people against 4.
Right. So, okay, guys, it's just run your race. Don't worry about them. You're likely better than half of them anyway. Mm-hmm. Just run your race, run your style, forget about them.
Right. It's all you can do anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah, but you can get in your own head, right? You can just, oh gosh, there's all these people, statistically, I'm 1 out of 50 people, right?
And by the way, just a little aside, Sonora has a stud runner.
Oh, really?
Yes. We were up in Angels Camp for a big meet where all the schools come, and it's for cross country. It's a 3.1 mile course, and some guy from Sonora ran in 15:20.
Okay. Wow.
That's just over 5 minutes a mile.
Wow. Good on you, Sonora runner, whoever that was. Good job.
I wish I remember the guy's name, but I don't.
Yeah, but that psychology thing, that's basically can apply to any sport,
yes.
Which is, which is why you have coaching, why you have that mental preparation, because in any sport, you're going to go up against people that are bigger, faster, stronger than you, and if you can be mentally tougher, sometimes you'll win those,
Absolutely.
Yeah. We see that in every sport, if you're mentally stronger, you can win, we see that all the time, So this is a question that I wanted to pose to you, which is if someone out there is just watching, because you like all these little sports that fly under the radar. If someone is just watching like the big four, baseball, football, I'm blanking on this big four. If someone's out there just watching the big, hockey. Yeah, if someone's out there is just watching the big four, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, what are they missing out on if they're not watching these other fun sports?
Missing out on some good stories, some involvement, and I'll give you an example of each. So I consider arena football separate from the NFL, and it really is.
Yeah.
And
remember, we saw some arena football games. They were so fun.
Right. I absolutely love them. Anyway, so there was a story about this guy who was a high school football coach who doubled as a linebacker for an arena team. Okay. So, you get the story of him having to coach his guys and then go to practice and then go to a game, go play his game. And you see a lot of people who are there just for the fun of it. Mm-hmm. Because these sports don't pay a lot of money. Right. They have to get second jobs. Mm-hmm. And then I mentioned involvement. If they're only looking at the big four, like I said, I coach cross country, so we're always looking for people to get involved. There was a story out on ESPN some time ago where this inner city Charlotte school was looking for a way for his students to, I guess, kind of branch out. And this is a school of 200 kids, and he created a lacrosse team. And in just 3 years, they won state. Wow. Yeah, they're missing out on just some fun other sports. Yeah, and some of the sports that we're talking about, you mentioned lacrosse. High school sports are super fun. Go check out some high school sports. See if in your town, I live in Sonora, so there's not anything here, but in a lot of towns they have like in Modesto they have the farm league. They have the Modesto Nuts, mm-hmm. which is a farm league for the baseball. So is it AAA or AA? It's single A, actually. Oh, single A for the Modesto, or for the is it for the A's or for not anymore? It was for the A's at one time. It's now the Seattle Mariners. Oh, and by the way, the Modesto Nuts won the league championship. There you go. And you can go. One of the benefits I see of it is, first of all, you're watching sports, which is super fun, but it's cheap. It's like a cheap night out. Yes. And it's super fun, but especially if you catch something like that, like single A, double A, or something like that, these are the players that are going to be pros. Some of them are going to be pros. They might be the superstars in a couple years. Not all of them, but some of them are going to be. Right. For those who've heard of Nolan Arenado, he started his baseball career as a Modesto Nut. Yeah. And he's now playing for the St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah. Go-karts. Yeah. And that, like you mentioned, that's another thing that people would be missing out on, especially if you're trying to go to an NFL game. That. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you have to take a second mortgage out to go see a NFL game, especially if you count, from where we're at, you have to, gas and parking and, drinks are like, you have to give them your kidney to get a beer or whatever. It's just so much money to go see a professional sports game, and you get like 85% of the experience and 100% of the fun without the name brand name, you know, and the games are so competitive and so fun. So go check out a game, and there's soccer, there's hockey, there's field hockey, we saw a field hocky game, right? I think we saw a field hockey game, didn't we? I
don't believe so.
I think we did. I don't know. We saw some fun stuff.
We've seen a lot of sports over the years.
Oh my gosh! You're always dragging me to stuff.
Yeah, you've dragged me to some places too. And
that's true.
And actually, I find it ironic that my very first experience at the River Cats Stadium, which, by the way, the River Cats is a AAA baseball team of the Giants. Mm-hmm. My very first experience as going to that park was not to see baseball. It was to see boxing.
Oh, dude. Bro, that was fun, dude.
Yeah, I loved it.
Oh, my gosh. I think I won tickets. Didn't I win tickets to that?
I think you did.
Yes, I won tickets, and I was like, Matt, let's go watch tickets. Let's go watch boxing. And I wanted to talk about this because less known sports. And so we haven't mentioned MMA or boxing, and MMA's they've kind of come down a little bit from where they were maybe 5 years ago. I love boxing so much. Out of all the sports, it's probably my favorite sport, and I just don't get to watch anymore. I love boxing so much, but I got to take Matt to go watch some live boxing, and that was a good time.
Yes, it was,
dude. I think all the fights except for one ended in a knockout, or maybe all the night's fights ended in a knockout. It was great. That was awesome.
Yeah, I don't remember the specific details, but I just remember having a fun time.
Oh my gosh, that was great.
And I think your dad was with us too.
Yeah, I think Desiree. I think I won 4 tickets, and Desiree and my dad and you came. Man, that was a good time.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me.
Yeah, that was good. I'm gonna say this is biggest challenges or bad experiences, but I want to say, as a sports fan, can you tell me of a time of maybe a bad experience where you went to see a sport and you had a bad time?
Yes. I went to a high school game, and I wanted to just to see the two teams. I had nothing better to do that day, and so I went over there. It was, between two teams. It was Ripon Christian and Sierra Ridge, which does not have a football team anymore. That game was so lopsided.
Oh.
I was bored by halftime.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I think that was one of the few games I left early.
Oh, wow.
And now we're saying that another experience just popped in my head that I absolutely have to share.
Okay.
So my wife and I were in Reno, and this was in March, and she was kind enough to go with me to a baseball game.
Okay.
And so the only baseball playing in Reno in March is college, so University of Pacific and Nevada.
Okay.
I was prepared for the cold, but keep in mind, I live in the Central Valley, so
it's very cold in Reno.
So I was prepared for Valley cold. I was not prepared for Reno cold.
Yeah. So we talked to my dad. My dad lives in Dayton, which is very close to Reno. It gets very cold. It gets very cold.
Yes. So I'm in my jacket. I'm in a sweater. I'm still freezing. I'm like, okay. I go to the stand to buy a beanie. And so I put it on my head. Still, nothing's happening. And, I go to the snack bar just as an excuse to walk around. After the third inning, my wife and I look at each other like, we gotta get out of here.
It's too dang cold. We gotta beat it, man.
This is it. And so
I don't care what we paid. It's not worth the price. We gotta get out of here.
No, and normally we bought the tickets. We're paying. We're staying till the end of the game.
Yeah.
That philosophy was out the window that day.
That's awesome. That's a good story. You're a fan of sports. You're a fan of a lot of different sports. What draws you to a sport? What fills your bucket? Why? Like what is it you like about sports?
A few things. I like the competition. I mentioned psychology earlier. I like the psychology about it. One thing that draws me, two things draw me, actually. One, is there a story? I gotta confess, I grew up a wrestling fan, and so
I did too.
Yes,
I don't like it anymore, but I did too. I watch wrestling all the time. Yeah.
And the one thing about wrestling is that there's always a story.
Yeah.
And that kind of grew to the other sports. If there's a story out there, like if a guy is playing against his former team, or there have been times like brothers playing against each other.
Sure.
And that actually even happened in the World Cup of all places.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like two brothers, they were eligible to claim one of two countries, either Germany or Ghana. One decided to play for Germany, the other one decided to play for Ghana, and they ended up meeting in the World Cup.
Wow.
Another thing is, if anyone local is playing, I'm a sucker for...
You're always posting on Facebook. If so-and-so is from here, so-and-so is now over there, and they're from Modesto, or they're from Atwater, or they're from... Yeah, you're always posting that stuff on Facebook.
So, as much as I hate the Yankees, and I hate the Yankees...
Who doesn't?
Yeah. I do root for Aaron Judge, who is from Linden.
Nice.
And...
anybody that can get out... We're with you guys.
Exactly.
If you can get out of this horrible place that we are from, we're pulling for you.
I wouldn't necessarily call it horrible, but keep in mind...
that's because he's still stuck here, guys.
Pretty much. I grew up in Oakdale, and if...
they have a whole 3 stoplights now, guys.
Hey, way more than that.
Okay, they have 4.
And so nobody makes it out of Oakdale, unless the rodeo, which, by the way, is not on my list of sports I like, by the way.
You don't like the rodeo?
No, I'm not a big rodeo fan.
Lame.
Rodeo and cricket, those are... I mean, I can do rodeo every once in a while, but...
Cricket,
I can't do.
After day 3, you're like, I'm over this. I'm not coming back for day 4 of cricket.
Right. So
isn't cricket 4 days? Isn't it?
It can be.
Oh yeah, there's too many days.
Yep. So went off on a little tangent there, but my point is, nobody makes it out from Oakdale. The furthest I've in my lifetime, rather, is a guy named Seth Burford made it a third stringer for the Chargers 1 year.
Yeah.
But if anyone from my area makes it, celebrate.
This episode has been brought to you by, myself. We don't have any sponsors yet. We're still really small. But we do have a small Redbubble store. Our family's homeschool has a small Redbubble store that has some of our art, Desiree's art, and my children's art. But also, we have some hats, like the Most Custom Guitar hat, and N+1 Podcast hats. That would be a great way to support the channel if you are interested in wearing the hat of your favorite podcast, or a podcast that you like. I'm not saying this has to be your favorite. I like it. You could also, if you were interested, you could get the logo on, a bag or whatever. Right now, I think I only have it on hats. If there's something you want, let me know. The other thing you could do is you could join the Facebook group. I have a link in the show notes. On the Facebook group, we always have extra content. We have, photos, extra stuff. We post links to all the videos for the show, but there's always extra stuff on the Facebook group, and there's a place where we can have discussion about the shows, and there's a link to the Facebook group. The other thing that you can do that would be a great way to support the show, and this might be the best way to support the show, if you could do this one thing, it would mean the world to me, which is to just find one person to share an episode with. Whether it's just emailing them or texting them the link to an episode. It doesn't have to be this episode. It could be, but just any episode of the show that you enjoyed and that you think someone else would enjoy, and just say, hey, I enjoyed this episode of this podcast. I think you might enjoy it too. So yeah, you could send that over to them. Dude, I would really appreciate that. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Back to the show. So going back to what fills your bucket, and you were talking about the competition and the stories. I think that's what I loved so much about boxing, and going even back further to the psychology of people overcoming. I think that, remember when we watched those, the Gaddy Ward fights? Remember we watched those?
Oh, absolutely.
And it was like, those were, it was like, you had like they always say in boxing, styles make fights. And you had the two different styles you had someone that had more polish, and you had someone that had less polish, but just had this mentality that no matter what happens, you are not going to beat me, right? With Mickey Ward. And he had this Irish thing in him that, like, it's probably not healthy, which is that, like, the more you hit him, the harder he fought. It was like this broken thing in his brain. Like, the more his bell was rung, like, the harder he fought. And, like, he always started fights really bad. And then always, like, round 7, round 8, rounds 9, when the other guy was getting winded, and he always had this wicked left hook that was just devastating to the body. And those would pile up, and then they start limping around. And it's round 7, 8, and 9 when those would accumulate, and this thing started binging in his head, and he would just come on in the later rounds, and those fights were so good. Yeah. And it was all of that styles make fights with that mentality of overcoming. Even though I'm not as good, even though I'm not the right guy, I'm going to overcome anyway, just because I'm not backing down. Those were the best.
Yeah,
man.
I remember one series in particular where Gaddy is just wailing on Ward, and I can't remember if it was like the 6th or 7th round, something like that. But when Gaddy is done with his punches, Ward looks at him like, "Really? Is that all you have?"
Yeah,
and then he just starts going.
Oh yeah, I mean, one time the announcers are just yelling at the ref, "Stop it! You can stop it!" And no, they didn't. They let it go all the way. Man, those are just great. That's why I love boxing. You never know what can happen. They had 3 amazing fights, all-timer fights. Yeah, they were awesome. So.
By the way, so there was a movie about Mickey Ward called The Fighter.
Right.
Excellent movie. I recommend
good movie.
it.
Yeah, good movie. Watching different sports, or maybe approaching a new sport. Do you have something that you might consider a signature move? The Matt Groom signature move for watching sports.
Well, I mean, I guess watching the locals is definitely a Matt Groom move. But yeah, I guess from what I said earlier, it's like when I see something for the first time, especially nowadays we have internet on our phones. A couple years ago, I got into rugby. And
Rugby. Okay,
yes.
Tell me about this. Tell me about rugby, because I do not understand rugby.
And it's one good thing to understand about it is that's where the first football games were basically rugby style. Going back to misconceptions, people think all it is just football without pads, and that it's very dangerous. And it could be, but I don't know. In my opinion, they actually tackle better in rugby than they do in football. And so what it is kind of a mix between soccer and football, where you have a ball that's shaped like a football, but it's a little bit bigger. Right,
and a little bit rounder. It's not as pointy.
Right. And so, I mean, the goal is to go from, one end to the other. Now, in rugby, you're not allowed to pass forward like you do in football. You have to lateral it back. And if you're able to make it all the way to the end, it's called a try, and it's worth 5 points.
Yeah.
Then you do a conversion like you do in football. But what is different is where you convert it from depends on where you touch down. And it's actually called a touchdown. It's where you actually touch the ball down on the ground. And so the closer you get to the center, the straighter and closer to the goalpost that you get for the conversion.
That's a lot of weird craziness. Here's my signature move. If you want to learn a new sport, invite Matt over, put it on, and have him explain it to you. Like, I don't understand hockey. I mean, yeah, sure, the little black thing goes in the net. Also, hockey is horrible to watch on the TV and amazing in person.
Absolutely.
In person, it is the most nonstop, high octane, high action sport you'll ever see. It is nonstop the whole time. On TV, you're like, I don't understand. But there's all these weird rules, like icing and blue line, and then like people throw their hats on the ice, and I'm like, I love this hat. I'm not doing that. And go with Matt to a hockey game, and he will explain all these things to you.
Although, you know what, if you throw your hat in, you can get some free advertising.
So, but that would be my suggestion move is watch the sport with someone who knows it, that won't mind explaining things to you. That's patient, that cares for you, that say, oh yeah, if you're watching, like football's an easy one, 4 downs is kind of a hard thing to explain. Well, what's 4 downs? Well, they have 4 attempts to get past this line, and that resets it to get 4 more attempts to get past that line. Someone that can explain it in a clear, concise way, which Matt has always done for me. So that's my advice. Get yourself a Matt Groom. He'll do that for you.
Now I gotta get myself a Matt Groom.
Well, you're making yourself a couple little ones out there, man.
That's true.
Your kids are smart, man. I like them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once Mason warmed up, man, he was all smiles. He was awesome. So, do you have a guilty pleasure when watching sports?
Yeah. So there are times I'd rather watch the small teams than the big ones, and this is primarily I'm talking about the major sports, particularly college basketball. So my thought process is Duke, North Carolina, I can see them anytime. Like
the Cinderellas and stuff.
Yeah, like a Tennessee Martin, which probably half your viewers haven't even heard of.
All 5 of half of my viewers have never heard of.
Tennessee Martin's playing Samford, for example. They're just throwing 2 random schools out there. That may be their only shot that they get on TV. Mm-hmm. So I'm more inclined to watch them because, like I said, I can watch Duke, North Carolina, Kansas anytime. That's
interesting. So you prefer, especially on those big stages, like the the college basketball tournament that they have every year, March Madness. Yep. You want to watch those small schools. You want to watch them. That might be their only chance on a big stage like that, maybe in their entire life. Right. These are kids, somehow they got into the tournament, and then they're going to go off and be lawyers or whatever. They're going to go and be in businessmen or whatever they do. And hey, I played in the March Madness one time. Mm-hmm. That's cool. I think that's awesome. This is one I want to ask you.
Okay.
All-time favorite sports moment. I want you to think about, and this doesn't have to be small, big sports. All-time, I want you to think about every sporting moment you've ever can think of. I mean, was it some team winning a Super Bowl or a World Series, or was it a kid, one of your own kids, accomplishing something, or something you did, or I'm just gonna keep making stuff up until you say something. The first time Mason caught a ball one-handed, or
the more you make up, the more options you give me. This was a tough question to begin with.
Yeah.
So I'm going to cheat and give you 2.
Okay, that's fair.
One was involving all 3 of us, and I have to be a little selfish here and give me part of it too. So I'm watching Noah's baseball game, which he's now 12. He was 8 at the time, and Mason was a baby. And by the way, I've never seen any more intense games than an 8-year-old baseball game. I've seen the A's quite a bit. I've seen the Giants quite a bit.
You've seen NFL playoffs, not in person, but on the TV. They're intense, but not like an 8-year-old baseball game.
It gets bad. So anyway, so Noah's team's up at bat, and He wasn't at bat though, but some other kid was. And the kid hits a foul ball.
Okay.
I, at that time, am sitting there feeding Mason, who was a little less than a year old.
Okay.
A foul ball goes right to us. I catch it with Mason in one hand and the ball in the other.
Boom!
Yep.
I got it!
That's exactly it.
That's amazing. That is dynamite, bro. That's great.
And then number 2, so I was in high school.
Wait, hold on, before you move on. So that moment is an all-timer for you because your kids are involved. Your kid's in a game. You got your son who's brand new. So you have all these emotions, and you saved your kid's life one-handed.
Yep, that's right.
Yo, amazing. That's dynamite. I love that so much.
Oh, so did
dude, if you could take a picture of that moment and wear it on a shirt, you totally would. Can you get that tattooed on your shoulder? A picture of you.
I never said I get tattoos, but now that's just...
There you go. Just a picture of yourself protecting you. That's amazing. Okay, what's the next one?
So, I was a junior in high school. Talking about March Madness earlier. This was 1999. Gonzaga was just coming out of the woodwork. They're a huge program now, for those who are not basketball fans. But and this is, you're talking about the one thing I love sports with the stories is they came out of nowhere.
Right.
And this is the first year of, building. And I was able to watch the team on TV a few days before they were selected. One thing every sports fan loves to do is a bracket challenge. And so we did a bracket challenge with my friends. So they were the 10th seed. And I'll explain what all that means in a bit. But
I don't feel like you need to explain March Madness brackets. I feel like most people know what that is.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So they were a 10th seed, and they were playing against Minnesota, who was the 7th. And I said that Gonzaga is going to beat Minnesota. Mm-hmm. My friend's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Then I said that they would go on and beat the 2 seed Stanford. All my friends made fun of me for saying that. Mm-hmm. And they were watching the games. They beat Minnesota. They beat Stanford. I'm the one who got the last laugh. I told you guys this was going to happen.
You had seen them. You had this almost like insider trading. Like I saw them. I saw something special. I knew. And you guys didn't believe me. You got to say, I told you so. Yep. You didn't believe me. That's amazing. Nothing like a big fat I told you so, right?
Yep. I love those moments, let's be honest.
Yeah. That's better than like a Niners Super Bowl?
Yeah, they have 5 of them.
Okay. Oh. All right.
How many Seahawks have?
Okay, we're not talking about that. I told you I don't watch football anymore, so it doesn't even bother me, really.
Okay, so I'll admit that joke's lost a little luster now, but...
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, I don't know, we ask a question to every guest. We have a segment on the show called Let's Get Into It, where if there's time, if there's a way to do it, we try to get into the topic with our guests. I don't know if we can find a way to do that. Have you thought of anything?
I have. So we were talking about March Madness earlier, and all the fans love to do, and even some non-fans, is to fill out a bracket for the bracket challenge.
Yes, bracket.
When we're filming this, it's not during basketball season.
Right. Right now it is November.
But I looked at the NCAA website to see if there was something that we could do.
Okay.
And this is great because as much of a sports fan as I am, I can't get into everything.
Right.
And
it's impossible.
Exactly. So I found something that even I know very little, if anything, about.
Okay.
And so this will be great.
So what is this?
So this is a bracket for the Division III soccer championship.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a photo of this. So I'll pop this up. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this right now. If you are not, I will. You can go to the Facebook group, and we will have this linked up there. When does this start?
So it actually started today, and like I said, this is something that I don't watch, so I don't even know the results.
This starts. No,
It
starts on the. It looks like it starts the 10th, right?
Yes.
But the 10th is tomorrow.
10th is today.
Oh, the 10th is today.
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna see if I could post this because this episode's not gonna come out till next week. So I was gonna invite you guys to join us.
No, but what we can do is when the actual March Madness happens, then we could do that.
We could do that. Join us in March for March Madness. We'll post on the Facebook group. We'll have a March Madness bracket. If for anyone that wants to join us, we'll do that. But for now, we'll just do this right now. So
in the meantime, we can do this. And now this is a 64 team thing.
That's a lot of classes.
It is. And so I'm not suggesting that we do all of them right here, or maybe pick a section.
How am I supposed to pick winners if I can't see their hats?
You know what?
So that's a joke because I had when my dad used to do brackets with people at his work. There was always one person that picked that didn't know anything about sports that would just look at the jersey, the mascots, and pick based on which jersey mascot they liked the mascot of better. And that person would always win.
Yeah, that's who always wins. Always, and it's just...
Yeah, so it's like sometimes the less you know about a sport, the better. Which I know nothing about the sport, so here we go.
I don't know anything about it either. Let's see, so looking up top, Mary Washington, 16-1-2 against Newman, 9-4-3. I'm going to pick Mary Washington based off...
I don't want you to bias me, so I'll tell you what, you can narrate what you're doing, but I'm going to go from the bottom up. I don't want your answers to bias my answers.
Okay,
so you narrate for the audio listeners what you're doing, and I am just going to do my own thing, and we're going to post our answers on the Facebook group. You guys can keep us honest. We're just going to do the left side right now for time. We'll fill this out all the way afterwards, okay? Go ahead. Okay.
So next one, John Carroll against St. Mary's of Maryland. I know John Carroll has a very good football team, so that's who I'm going with. Next, Kenyon and Dominican, Illinois. I don't know anything about either one of them. Dominican.
Tied records. It's weird. They tied records, but different number of ties. 12-5-1, 12-5-3.
Washington College and Otterbein.
I think I'm going to go with the team that tied more.
Montclair State, Elmira. Montclair State has a better record. Christopher Newport, Manhattanville. I'll go Newport.
Calvin and Hobbs.
That's Franklin and Marshall in Geneva. Let's go Geneva. Connecticut College only has one loss. Let's go with them. Okay, and so that's just one side of the bracket.
I say keep going all the way down. We have one full half of the thing, and that will be even.
Calvin and Greenville. Let's go upset.
I'm doing a lot of upsets.
I don't even know what an upset is.
I know, right?
It would be in this.
I'm just going off the records if it's something is an upset. Okay. The nice thing is, none of this means anything.
It really doesn't. But now that we're doing this, I want to know how I do.
Yeah.
I am.
See that is the lesson here, which is doing something like this creates a little bit of care. Now you care about this. You want to follow up. You want to follow through. You want to find out, and you start to follow the sport. You start to learn it. You maybe learn what some of the teams are. So that's maybe the lesson. You've learned something. So
yes.
Okay. So Matt Groom, my dear friend.
Yes.
I have had so much fun. This is amazing.
Yes, I've enjoyed it.
What is, for you, the name of the show, your N+1 when it comes to sports?
Well, I mean, I do have a bucket list of games I want to go to, things I want to do. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see a game in Las Vegas in a couple weeks.
Oh, really?
Yes, college basketball game. I am a huge college basketball nut, so I'll see UNLV. And they're playing against Akron originally it was just I'm going to go just because it's a game, but I hear Akron might actually be good this year, maybe a potential Cinderella. So now I want to see if they can help me in my bracket challenge.
Oh, nice. Well, that's awesome. That sounds like fun. I hope that works out well for you. So thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been amazing. It's been great to catch up with you. Yes. I really miss hanging out with you. I wish we weren't so far apart. We'll have to do this again. We were talking about trying to find a place to do disc golf with our kids, and that sounds like so much fun. We got to find some place to do that. Can people connect with you? Are you interested in having people find you? Are you...
To be honest, outside of friends and family, I'm a pretty private.
That's fair. Person. Instead, try to find some local sports and go see that.
Yes.
Even if it's high school sports, there's high school sports in every town in America. Go see some high school sports. Support your local track, your local cross country team.
Yes, go see a cross country meet.
Yeah. Tell them Matt Groom sent you.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming. Now, I get to ask you, my dear friend, the two silly questions. Okay. My favorite part of the show.
Looking forward to
Now, Matt's a listener. He is one of our faithful listeners, like you, dear listener. So, I want you to say a name, say a sentence or two, and casually drop the name of the most famous person you've ever met.
Okay, I'm going to cheat on this one, too.
That's fine.
And I'm going to give two, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So, the one that I've met, and I can't remember if I actually had any interaction with him at all, but we went... a couple of friends and I went to go see Gabriel Iglesias in San Jose.
Oh, okay.
Huge comedian.
Yeah.
He did a meet and greet and you got an opportunity. I know he interacted with one of my friends. Since I can't remember if I said anything or not. Mm-hmm. My second story. So my mom calls me one time and says, "Hey, Joe Montana's in my restaurant."
No.
Yes. So Oakdale football was playing a school called Cardinal Newman.
No.
And
I ain't buying it.
You don't have to.
No. Gabriel Iglesias is fine. Joe Montana's not. Nope.
So it was actually well known that he had a family friend who played for Cardinal Newman.
Okay.
And I decided to go to the game. I was going to go anyway. But by the time I got there, the home stands were full. And so I had to go to the visitor's side. And so I was close enough to him to where, I could see him, but I couldn't talk to him.
Okay.
What I saw in the middle of the game was a bunch of people lining up for autographs.
Okay.
And eventually they had to call security. And
oh, gosh.
That gave me a realization, that famous people are human too, but, this gave me another perspective of it. Mm-hmm. The poor guy just wants to go watch a game.
Yeah.
Instead, he had a bunch of autograph hounds because Joe, like you say, you weren't buying it because Joe Montana doesn't go to Oakdale.
So you actually didn't meet him or say hi. You were just in proximity.
I was in proximity, but I share that story because
fair.
It gave me a perspective of these guys really are human.
Yeah, I was gonna say you met Joe Montana, and you're gonna tell me the most famous person you met was Gabriel Iglesias. So no, you didn't meet. You were just in proximity. You experienced the Joe Montana aura, is what you're telling me.
That's fair to say, yes.
Yeah, and I guess that's fair. Okay, all right. So, okay. And I would like you to tell me what is, in your opinion, the greatest all-time cartoon theme song.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Dude, we haven't gotten a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles yet. That is a great cartoon theme song. Turtles.
Ninja Turtles. Teenage. You know what's
Turtles
funny?
in a half shell. Turtle power.
You know what's funny is my wife actually remembers more of that song than I do.
Yeah. Have you seen the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie yet?
I have. My wife and I took the boys a few weeks, maybe a month ago.
Yeah, the CG one or whatever. It's really good. Yeah, it's super good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah. But yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, that's a really good one. I can't believe you're the first TMNT that we've gotten. But that's a really good one. So thank you so much. All right, Matt, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, you're a viewer of the show. You know how to sign out. So say it with me, everybody. Don't be a jerk.